Welcome back. So for the next two lessons, now we're going to take what we know about graphing lines and absolute values, and we're going to apply them to graphing inequalities. So here when we have two variable inequalities, the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to graph the line, okay? So here, I'm actually going to graph the line negative 2x plus 3. So remember, you always start at the y-intercept. So start up at 3. Slope of negative 2 means down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, so on and so forth. Now once you have all those dots plotted out, now you need to ask yourself, solid or dashed? For that, I look here. Because I see the or equal to piece, okay, the bar under the less than sign, that tells me that I should have solid shading. Okay, the line itself is actually part of my solution region. And the fact that it's less than or equal to means I want to shade less than. I want to shade under my line. And that's it. So really the only difference from what you already know to having to do now is you already know how to graph the line. Now you just interpret, all right, solid or dashed line. Do I shade above or below? So let's look at our next one. So I start at the y-intercept. I start at the negative 2. And now I have a slope of 3/4. Up 3 over 4. Up 3 over 4. And now I look at my inequality again. So that is strictly greater than. So strictly greater than means a dashed line. It does not have the or equal to piece, so you need to make sure that you're using a dashed line. And then I see that it's greater than. Greater than means shading above. So you would shade this region that is above the line. There are two special cases that I want you to remember. Okay, so here, when I just have y is greater than or equal to 2, whenever you just have y being compared to a number, this is a horizontal line at 2. Okay, specifically, it is a solid line at 2 because it's or equal to. So whenever you just have y compared to a number, again, think horizontal line. Greater than that line is obviously going to be above. Also remember that x is going to create a vertical line. Okay, that's the other special case to make sure that you keep straight. So that is a vertical line, and this one is dashed because it's strictly less than. Now I have to think less than. Well, you can't shade above that line. That doesn't make any sense. So this time you actually have to think less than negative 1. Where are all of the x values that are less than negative 1? That's going to be here where there's negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. So in this instance, less than means over here, okay? Because those are where the x values are less than negative 1. So those are just the basics, going back to the basics of graphing inequalities. Now, of course, sometimes you'll see things like this. And in order to graph something that isn't in slope-intercept form, so something that isn't solved for y, remember the most important thing is solving it for y. Okay, so here I'm going to subtract off that 2x and divide by 3. And now I have something that is in y equals form. So now I have something that I actually do know how to graph. Okay, start at the y-intercept, down at negative 4, and then a slope of negative 2/3. Down 2 over 3, down 2 over 3, Okay, continue that as long as you can. Now, we interpret the sign. So here, less than or equal to. So this is going to be a solid line. Then I see that it is less than or equal to. So here, oh, I'm sorry, even just said it and still almost messed it up. Less than or equal to means you want to shade underneath that line. Our next one, same thing. We want to get the y by itself. So I'm going to add the negative 5x over and divide by 4. Oh. So I added the 5x over and divided everything by 4. So now I'm going to be able to graph this. So y-intercept up at 6, rise over run up 5 over 4. So that's going to go a little bit off. It's going to go up there. So let's go the exact reverse. Down 5, back 4, back 4. So we're going to get this, and this is going to be a dashed line because it's strictly greater than. Greater than means I'm going to shade above my line. And now that is all. So one more example of this skill. So here again, trying to get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract over the 3x. And now when I divide by negative 2, because I need to get the y by itself, remember when I divide by a negative, remember that actually flips the sign of my inequality. So don't forget those little tricks that you learned back in chapter 1 about if you divide by a negative in an inequality, that actually flips your sign. And now I can graph this. I start down on my y-intercept of negative 4, and I follow my slope. Up 3 over 2, up 3 over 2, so on and so forth. This is going to be a solid line because it's less than or equal to. The or equal to makes it solid. Less than is going to make me shade underneath. So that's all about how to graph an inequality. So one last thing we do want to talk about is, can you write me an inequality? Can you look at the graph and tell me the inequality that made it? So the first thing that I'd like you to do when I ask you to do this is find me the equation of the line. This, again, we practiced earlier in chapter 2 here. So y-intercept down at negative 1. Slope, we're going up 3 over 1 to get to another nice point. So a slope of 3. So first things first, find me the equation of just the normal line. Then you want to show me you're shading less than, you're shading underneath, and then because it's a dashed line, I do not put in the or equal to piece. Okay, so that is actually as good as it gets. Okay, that is going to be my inequality. All right, let's try another one. So here I have my y-intercept up at 3. And now we need to find another nice point. So I'm following the line, and it looks like the next nice point doesn't occur until there. So how do I get there? Well, I'm going to go down, let's see, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 4. So down 5 over 4. So that's going to be a slope of negative 5/4. Okay, so again, first things first, find me the equation of the line, the slope and the y-intercept. Now this time, you're shading above, and you need the solid piece because, or equal to piece, because you see you are shading a solid line. So, thank you for joining me for today. So again, the two big ideas you should have gotten from today are how to graph linear inequalities, and if I show you one, how to write its equation. So now you're good to go, so you can go back and start doing the worksheet.